Hey guys, got interested in setting up limit switches and found out something that I didn't know. Most of you guys probably do, but I didn't know a couple things. First, all your limit switches can be run on one interrupt, because when you go to home, it's going to do one axis at the time, and so you can run them all through one. I chose to run mine through two, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I run X and Z on one, so they're just daisy chained from the Z axis, and I only do the upper limits, and then my X goes through two for plus and minus, and they all just run daisy chained together. And originally I was going to have my Y connected to the same one, and I probably could, but here's why I didn't do it. Number one, I had my Y-axis set up. It worked fine, it homed, and then I got to thinking about, well, what about if my gantry racks, and I always want to make sure that my gantry is parallel to my axis, and so I decided to look into having a limit on my A as well, and find out if there's a way to actually set up the square. And I found a couple of videos where they did that. Didn't go into a lot of the details, but what happens is it will come forward until it hits the first one, and if the other one hasn't tripped yet, it will continue to move that axis until it reaches the limit, and then it backs both of them off. And let me demonstrate. I've got I mechanically went in and racked my gantry just a little bit to demonstrate this. So I'm going to do a home all, and of course first it's going to do the X and Z, but then it'll show you what happens to the Y that's not parallel. So again, Z is going to come up and go to 0, which is at the top of the stroke, and then it's going to do a Y, and you'll notice they're not exactly in the same spot. So the A is going to hit first, it's going to stop, and then the Y finishes and backs off, and then of course X also does. So now my Z-axis, excuse me, my Y-axis is parallel to my gantry every time, and if you need to make any small adjustments to make sure it's perfectly parallel, I've got some adjustment screws there. If anybody's interested in this little bracket here that complements the brackets that people have been talking about on Thingiverse, I'll upload that. It allows you to back off from the one that came with it that hooks to here, which is too close for me, because I don't want it hanging off my bed, which if you see here, basically right over my the front of my spoil board. So anyway, hope that helps. I will say it was a little tricky at first, because I had the Y and A backwards, which meant when it hit, it started backing off the other side and never hit, and it just went disastrous. So make sure your Y and A are hooked to the Y and A limit switches, and you'll be great.